Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday's ESPN FC Live. Don't wave, honestly. This isn't work experience television. We'll get to you in just a second. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Donaldson in Connecticut. And the 5-year-old I brought with me today for Bring Your Kid to Work is not in Connecticut. Where are you, Luis Miguel Echegaray?
Mark Donaldson, I'm 3 Moscow Mules in. I'm in Canouan, a lovely little island of the San Vincent and the Grenadines. So I don't know. Apologies to Rob Moore and our producers where the show's going to go, but I'm excited. Let's get to it, baby.
I have a hard enough time trying to keep Janusz Mihalik to 1 minute with his answer, so this could be anything. On today's ESPN FC Live, we will be previewing the big one this weekend on Sunday between Liverpool and Manchester City. I didn't realise how much of a bad record City have got in the Premier League at Anfield. Just one win since 2003. It's first against second. So as well as a preview, Luis Miguel and myself have been asked by our producers independently, so we don't know each other's team, to put together a combined 11 of the players currently available. So we'll get to that shortly. There's also been a fair bit of talk over the past 24 hours about what are Inter Miami going to do once Lionel Messi retires and Neymar has been strongly linked. Are we going to get into a period whereby Inter Miami or Major League Soccer will have, possibly for the next decade or so, at any stage, a huge star in the league? But first, Liverpool, Manchester City on Sunday. Before we preview it, Luis Miguel, both of us were asked to put together an 11, a combined 11. So you don't know mine, I don't know yours. I'm going to show you mine right now. We can go through it briefly, and you can pull me up over anything you don't particularly like. Okay, I've gone a 4-2-3-1. Part of the reason is I wanted both Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker in the side. And don't give me the, oh, but Trent's injured. I'll make sure he's fit. I'll give him some Iron Brew from Scotland as his pre-match drink. I've got all the main ones in. I like the 3 in behind Haaland, Salah, Foden, whatever you're playing them, left or right, and Kevin De Bruyne. Is there anything there that you want to take issue with? That's my combined Liverpool and Man City 11. Anybody I've missed out? Or what do you think about that one?
Well, I mean, mine is a little different. We'll get to it later. But when I'm looking at yours straight away, it obviously makes perfect sense from a match fixture perspective in terms of these two teams. Erling Haaland clearly should lead like that line. Phil Foden, listen, MD, aside from Ollie Watkins, Phil Foden is the best player in the Premier League right now. You cannot not put him in. Absolutely. De Bruyne, Mohamed Salah just came back into it. But look, here's the thing, MD. Our producers, Rob Moore, told us based on availability. So I didn't include Mohamed Salah. They'll get to it in a second. I do like the 3 front line behind Erling Haaland. I'm not so sure about the back 4. I went with a 3-4-3 formation. And also, here's my biggest question to you, man. Listen, Jurgen Klopp said, the Irish legend that is Keller, he's been the best number 2 in the world right now. And I totally agree. I think he would go ahead of Ederson right now.
Number two. Yes.
But he's better than Ederson right now.
Come on now, behave yourself. He's a good goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong. Come on. I mean, it's not even a Villa scarf you've got on it. You're putting Ederson as a goalkeeper. If you don't put Ederson in, if you put a number 2, not even a number 1, ahead of Ederson, you're making a mockery of
We're
this.
Talking about right now. And by the way, everybody, I'm having water, okay? I'm not having Moscow Mule. This is a purely alcohol-free situation. I'm having water.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Raise my hand so I can get a word in. You said based on availability, Mohamed Salah returned to training today. So that's why I've got him in my 11.
I like it. Hey, listen, like I said.
Let's have a look at yours so I can pick apart.
I went specifically on the direction of our producers, Mark Donaldson. I didn't go rogue like you. I went on who's fit,
who we've seen
recently. No, and look at this. I have the world's best number 2 in goal. Right now, this man is performing miracles. By the way, miracles in goal for Liverpool, taking in mind all the injuries. I went with a 3-4-3 because I think that Ruben Dias, Van Dijk, and Akanji can combine together as a really good unit defensively as a 3 center-back lineup. Now, there's Ruben Dias twice, but my man Rob should have put who did I put in there, Rob, by the way, that wasn't Dias, because I didn't put Dias twice. I selected somebody else. That's not my fault. That's producer's fault. There's
But
no way.
you've got Joe Gomez
I
and John
put Joe
Stones as your wing backs. Come
Well,
on now.
No. Joe Gomez should have been in the midfield, because what he has been able to do right now in terms of the abominable injury list that Liverpool has gone through, Joe Gomez has been serving underratedly as one of the most useful players for Liverpool. It's been ridiculous. So it's Gallagher, Ruben Diaz, Virgil van Dijk, Akanji, Joe Gomez, Rodri, De Bruyne, John Stones in the midfield, and then up Haaland leading the line with Darwin, El Uruguayo, Nunez, and Phil Foden. That's my lineup. Based on ability, Mark Donaldson.
Darwin.
You're
happy with the 3 goals he scores from the 40 chances that he gets?
Look at the stats recently in his last 10 games and tell me he doesn't belong up front right now.
It's subjective, what you think and what I think. I've gone with a more balanced side. I think yours is your side is probably better at maybe keeping the goals out than mine might be. Mine's very adventurous or attacking, but I think it shows there's probably 5 or 6, maybe 7 of one, and 4, 5, or 6 of the other. And you could argue a few things about everything, Trent Alexander's injury right now, whatever. But the bottom line is there's a lot of quality players that will be on show on Sunday. So let's get to the preview for this one. Liverpool against Manchester City. Forget who the bookies have made favourites. Liverpool are 1 point clear, LME. Who would you make as favourites going into this one with the personnel available? Knowing fine well, I'm asking you this before both sides have played in Europe this week.
Yeah, this is a really good question because, well, you began this whole contextual conversation by saying how Man City's form at Anfield is not good. But then when you take into consideration who is available and who isn't for either side, but specifically Liverpool, it's very difficult for me to go against Manchester City heading into this one just because of how they're feeling right now. This is no longer just about Kevin De Bruyne or even Erling Haaland's goals. Now you have Phil Foden, who has gone from a star, young, local kid, Stockport's Iniesta, to being a legitimate, bona fide starter. Then you have Julian Alvarez and the midfielder is John Stones and Rodri. They look very complete at the moment. And then you're going up against the romanticism of Jurgen Klopp's last season in this particular fixture at Anfield. That is massive. And what they have been able to do, taking in mind all the injuries, all the absences, it's very difficult to go against the conversation, which is form, statistics, and what records have proven against the romanticism of what Liverpool can do. And then you add the fact that Man City don't do well at Anfield. This is going to be a high-scoring game, Mark Donaldson, and I think I'm going to go with a Liverpool win, actually.
Okay, well, that would mean a 4-point gap at the top. A City win would mean they go to the top of the table. Obviously, Arsenal playing this weekend as well. What did we learn from the 1-1 draw back in November at the Etihad when Erling Haaland scored in the first half and Trent scored 10 minutes from time?
Well, it was the narrative of the game. Manchester City controlled the game from a possession perspective, from a XG perspective, from dominating in the midfield and providing context. But so many times we have seen a Pep Guardiola style system control the momentum, but not necessarily get the result that they want. And Liverpool are one of the best in Europe and the world to take advantage of vulnerable situations in specific moments, specifically against big teams. We have seen it historically time and time again. The question mark that I have is how big of an issue is it going to be when you don't have your fully fit starting 11? Because Mohamed Salah will be available, obviously return to training. Will he start from the minute one? We'll have to wait and see. And also, because Jurgen Klopp has had to rely so much on youth and putting players like Joe Gomez in the midfield and trying to replicate something that you can do when you don't have a full fit squad available, then that gives me a question mark too. Man City on the other side, they know who they are exactly, and their squad is so embarrassingly deep. So I think that the lesson that we can learn is that not much separates both sides. I think the Anfield crowd, Mark, is going to be up for this one, and they could prove to be the 12th man in this game.
Yeah, you look at the big games of late in the Premier League, the goalless draw with Manchester United, the 1-1 draw against Arsenal, very different games. United came to sit in and they got what they asked for or what they came for. The Arsenal game was much more open, so I would expect a kind of open game this weekend. And it's weird because Liverpool-Chelsea should be a big game, but the way Chelsea are right now, but look, Liverpool was 4-1 going on goodness knows how many. So it'll be exciting. Looking forward to that one. Full coverage full preview and reaction right here on ESPN FC. Now, I was chatting to an ESPN FC colleague this morning, and I was asked the question, who do you think's in contention for Player of the Year right now? Obviously, you know Ollie Watkins well, being a Villa fan, and he's been fantastic. You've spoken about Phil Foden as well. We've had a question in from one of the viewers suggesting if Foden keeps up the form that he's in right now, should he, and maybe could he even be in contention in the Ballon d'Or discussion? What do you make of that?
Well, the Ballon d'Or discussion is about the nominees to win it, and then there's winning it, which is obviously a different conversation, especially in an era where you have the likes of Jude Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland. But Phil Foden is a tremendous talent. What a tremendous talent. And when you look at the numbers all the way from pretty much his most influential starts in 2019, 2020, when he had 23 appearances for Manchester City, you know, all the numbers have just risen. Last season, he scored 11 goals. He's already matched that this season alone. And now he's added more assists as well. And we're talking about a player that has had to wait his moment in a Manchester City lineup that includes so many stars. I think he is on the rise. He will continue to do it. England fans will hope that he will be able to be one of the key components in this summer's Euros. And there is no doubt in my mind that he can be a player that can be a finalist in a Ballon d'Or discussion, top 3, top 5. Winning it, I mean, nothing is impossible, but the talent is so deep all around Europe that I think it could be difficult to beat the likes of somebody like Kylian Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Erling Haaland.
Sure.
But Phil Foden deserves to be in the conversation for the way that he's playing. What a ridiculous talent that boy is.
I know when we did our teams earlier and you put in Darwin, we had a bit of a giggle as well. Like the one thing, among many things, that impresses me the most about Darwin, he never hides. And yes, he'll get chances. And if he misses it, you know what? He's always there to get back. So are we assuming that Mohamed Salah starts wide right on Sunday? And we'll get further details from Jurgen Klopp. 2 p.m. Eastern today, 7 p.m. UK. He'll speak with the press ahead of their game in Prague tomorrow. So we'll probably know more about Mohamed Salah's availability for both the games then. But if we go Mohamed Salah on the right-hand side of a front three, I suppose we're playing Darwin through the middle and we're playing Luis Diaz on the left-hand side of the front three. Does that pick itself for Sunday?
Yeah, that would be my lineup. And then Cody Gakpo could come in later in the game, depending on the narrative and the rhythm of how it's going. Like you said, look, here's the thing about Darwin Núñez. One is the point that you made at the beginning. This man does not shy away from anything, and he will give you 100%. And that's something that Jurgen Klopp appreciates more so than anything. His off-the-ball work, by the way, he's usually the first defender for Liverpool. And that's very, very important for the Reds. Now, in terms of production, yes, obviously, most of the criticism is how raw he can be, and he doesn't necessarily score as many as he wants. But so far in the Premier League, he's got 10 goals, 7 assists, and, you know, taken in mind that he hasn't been healthy throughout the entire campaign. So I would put Mohamed Salah on the right, Lucho Diaz on the left, Darwin Núñez in the middle, and that's a very dangerous front three, a very revitalized front three for Liverpool. And I think Núñez is the kind of player that is going to absolutely love playing against Manchester City once again. He just has to be careful to not get booked too early, because that can be the Darwin Núñez Achilles heel sometimes.
February 2021 was the only time in more than 20 years that Manchester City have won at Liverpool, but it was a really good performance. A couple of goals from Gundogan, Raheem Sterling when he was at City got one, and Phil Foden did as well. So it's the usual thing. You think there's going to be goals. You think it's going to be an excellent game. I'd be very surprised if this finished goalless like the Liverpool-Man United game did, simply because City aren't going to do anything like United did when they go to Anfield, because they'll think they can get the win as well. Who's it a more important game for out of these two teams?
Oh, MD, what a question. I mean, especially this season where every single point is vital. When you look at the Premier League table and Liverpool are leading, you clearly have a very important story here. And that's the simple fact that if Liverpool win this, they'll have a 4-point cushion. That's a win and a draw. Take also into consideration they have a better goal differential. It's not a substantial one, but it's still a goal differential that's better than Manchester City's. I feel that Manchester City need to win this game, or at the very least not lose, in order to continue. Because when you look at the following fixtures for both sides, they also have some tough games to follow as well. I mean, Liverpool still have to play Manchester United at Old Trafford. I mean, yes, it's Manchester United, but you never know. They got to play Tottenham. They're going to play Aston Villa at Villa Park as well. And they have to play Arsenal. And Manchester City also have to play some tough games, including Villa and Tottenham as well. But I think because of that 4 point, and as you said earlier as well, depending how far they go into other competitions, especially Liverpool, who are still going, to win that quadruple, I think that Man City cannot afford to lose this game. Liverpool win it, my God, what a fantastic sense of impetus is that for that side with a 4 point cushion over Manchester City. It's going to be a tasty one. High scoring game, I think.
I think so as well. And we will have both Jurgen Klopp and his opposite manager, Pep Guardiola. And we will hear from them both on Friday's ESPN FC Live as our build-up to the big game at the weekend continues. Now, Manchester United. Erik ten Hag. A lot of speculation about his future. Who might replace him if he goes in the summer? Where could he end up if he does? Or could he stay? Our very own Mark Ogden has filed a piece for us for ESPN FC to take a little bit of a deeper dive into Erik ten Hag's future at either Old Trafford or elsewhere. Mark.
So Erik ten Hag's future at Manchester United, we know, is in doubt because of the way the team are playing this season. They're way off the pace in terms of qualifying for the Champions League. Out of the Champions League this season at the group stage, only have the FA Cup left to play for this season. So while ten Hag approaches the summer with 1 year left in his contract, I've been told that Ineos, the club's new football operations head, or the lead people who are in charge of football operations, are now assessing their options in the event that ten Hag does leave his post at the end of the season. I've been told no decision has been made on ten Hag yet, but obviously there are doubts there. And United are assessing the candidacy of a variety of coaches, including Brighton's Roberto De Zerbi, Brentford's Thomas Frank, and England head coach Gareth Southgate. Now, each of those managers brings different things to the table, and I've been told that Southgate is an unlikely option due to the fact that he doesn't know yet what he will do at the end of this Euro 2024, whether he decides to stay on. The FA want him to stay on for the World Cup, or whether he decides to move into a different role. But obviously he's got a long-standing relationship with Dan Ashworth, working together at the FA, but he's also very close in recent years to Dave Brailsford, who is Ineos's head of sport, and he's obviously leading the recruitment at Man United. So De Zerbi, as we know, has had a great time at Brighton, is very highly rated, and sources have told me that De Zerbi is a coach that everybody's looking at. All the top clubs are looking at De Zerbi in terms of whether he is the guy for them or whether he's the guy for them in 12 months' time, perhaps. Thomas Frank may be a different candidate, but he has impressed people throughout the game with the fact that he's built a very high energy team at Brentford, probably defied the odds by keeping them in the Premier League as he has done, but also he works very well with a data-led approach to signing players, and United are under Ineos are trying to get away from the kind of the reckless nature of recruiting players on a more scientific basis. So there are other names in the frame, I've been told. Don't know who those names are yet, but I would imagine they are the likes of Graham Potter, who's out of work since leaving Chelsea, again, a manager who is familiar with Dan Ashworth. But what happens to Ten Hag? Well, I've been told that there are options available to Ten Hag potentially this summer in the Bundesliga. We know that he worked at Bayern Munich as a second team coach over a decade ago. Now, in Germany this summer, there's going to be at least one big job coming up at Bayern Munich. I don't expect Ten Hag to be in the frame for Bayern Munich, but there are two other very big jobs, that Bayer Leverkusen and VfB Stuttgart. If Xabi Alonso leaves Leverkusen after leading them to the title, which we expect, if Sebastian Hoeneß leaves Stuttgart, there are two potentially very big jobs for Ten Hag in the Bundesliga and in the Champions League next season, because both Leverkusen and Stuttgart are likely to be in the Champions League next year. As it stands right now, both have managers in place, Alonso and Hoeneß, but I've been told that people at United are aware that there is still an interest in Ten Hag from Germany. His reputation is high in Germany, so they have a duty to Ten Hag. There's a lot of uncertainty around him. He wants to know what's happening with his future. He's got a year left in his contract. United need to know what to do next season in terms of planning ahead, planning for players they may sign, want to know who the manager is. So right now, Ten Hag has got a lot to do to get United into the Champions League. He could yet do that, but it's a tall order. But because of the way United are, because of results, because of performances, because of tactics, because of his relationship with some of the senior players that has gone sour recently, it's looking hard for Ten Hag to keep his job. But as it stands right now, United are assessing their options without committing to a change. But I imagine by the end of the season, we'll know exactly what's going to happen. And I'd imagine that Ten Hag will leave this summer because he's not done enough to state his case to stay.
Yeah, good info there from Mark Ogden. There's a lot of info about what happens when Ten Hag leaves. In your opinion, Luis Miguel, is it a fait accompli that Erik Ten Hag will no longer be Manchester United manager if they don't get top four this season?
Oh, MD, listen, like I know all our friends who are watching, this is a 30-minute show on YouTube. And unfortunately, this kind of answer, specifically regarding Erik Ten Hag's future in Manchester United, requires a lot of context. The simple...
Well, start with a yes or a no.
Okay, well, if they don't get Champions League, he's not staying. But that doesn't say that I think he should go. I'm saying that that's going to be the decision of Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Because number one, these are the three fundamental factors that every Manchester United fan should ask themselves. Number one, what do you want out of your manager, or who do you want your manager to be? If it's not Erik Ten Hag and you don't get Champions League football, who is it? Roberto De Zerbi, Thomas Frank, Gareth Southgate, Thomas Tuchel, as our friend Mark Ogden was reporting as well. Are they better, fundamentally better than Erik Ten Hag? I don't know. Maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no. The question is, will you see finally a clear, bright path that will take you to glory and multiple trophies if you get rid of Erik Ten Hag? That's the first question you have to ask. The second question you have to say is, how much is it going to cost you to get rid of Erik Ten Hag? Because surely if you get rid of Erik Ten Hag before his contract ends and his staff, you're talking about 15 to 20 million pounds that you already have to get rid of. And then you also have to bring a new manager and his vision, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another question you have to ask. The problem is that if they don't get Champions League, okay, that's another season with no trophies. That's 2 out of the last 5, I believe. So clearly, Manchester United fans are not feeling good about what they're saying. And yes, Erik Ten Hag definitely takes blame for a lot of the football that I've seen recently. Okay, even the wins against Luton and Aston Villa, they weren't showing who Manchester United were. Against Manchester City, yes, it was a blinder from Marcus Rashford, but after that, they just parked the bus. Is that the Manchester United that you want? No. But let me ask you another question, Mark Donaldson. Has Erik Ten Hag, has any other manager in the last few years dealt with so much off-the-field issues as much as Erik Ten Hag, including Cristiano Ronaldo, who clearly was not happy, the public fallout with Jadon Sancho, the misdemeanors, the reported misdemeanors by Marcus Rashford, the PR campaign to get him just to get out of there as well as the strategic or non-strategic manipulation of the Glazers that clearly didn't care. Hence, Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in. So my question is this: is he going to leave if he doesn't get Champions League? Yes. Should he really be given the contextual reference of everything that he's had to deal with? Yes, as well. So whoever you bring in, Manchester United, be very careful, because the grass is not always greener.
11 points behind Villa right now. What if United get top 4? Does he stay?
I mean, if the Premier League gets a 5th spot, and there's still 6 points behind Tottenham, right, who are also in 5th as well. So that's also a tricky one as well. They're definitely not getting 4th, and this has nothing to do with my Villa bias. I just don't see it happening, because I look at the fixtures as well as what they have to face. I just don't see it happening. They're not showing me anything that says confidence, which obviously points to the argument of getting rid of Erik Ten Hag. Now, can they get 5th? Well, Tottenham are 6 points ahead, I believe, with a game in hand. So that's also unrealistic. So I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. And Erik Ten Hag will go, but I feel happy for him, because like Mark Ogden reported, there's going to be job offers for him. He's a fine manager who's had to deal with a lot of stuff, and getting rid of him is not going to solve everything. And Manchester United fans, you're not going to be Manchester City anytime soon, or Arsenal, or Liverpool. So you have to be very careful about what kind of manager you want when they come back in. Zinedine Zidane is not taking his job. He wants France, per our friend Julien Laurent. So it's tough.
Yeah, just to follow up on a couple of questions that you asked. One, money isn't an issue for Manchester United. They will not get the guy that they're after because of an extra 20-odd million that might have to be paid out to get rid of the guy that they've got. And two,
yeah, fair enough.
It would be a case of, we have our own guy in now, and they can use the excuse of, he's not our guy, Erik Ten Hag. So this is the decision that we've taken. Whether he's
who is the guy, MD?
Well, we don't know. I mean, look, Mark Ogden's... Well, I don't know. I'll go with the ones who are on the ground. I'm sitting here in Connecticut. I hear what I hear. The ones that are more connected are the likes of Mark Ogden and Rob Dawson and our guys at ESPN FC. And they've been on this right from the start. And Rob and Mark have both been saying that there is an interest in Graham Potter. I don't know how well that would go down with Manchester United supporters. Let's put it this way. If Manchester United job was available and there was no one, there was no present incumbent in that role, and it was a straight fight between Graham Potter and Erik Ten Hag, I'm not sure. Well, you wouldn't get unanimous agreement that it was going to be one or the other. So, yeah.
And all those names that Mark Hogan suggested, they're all fine managers. Obviously, I respect Roberto De Zerbi a lot, but don't for 1 second think that he's not going to deal with issues as well, if he ever took that job. This Gareth Southgate, he hasn't had a club job since he got fired by Middlesbrough in 2009 as well. And Thomas Frank, he's not having a good season. Again, I'm a big fan of his work, but these are sort of gambling, objectively decided, sort of smart kind of acquisitions that you want to get. Are they fundamentally better than Erik ten Hag? I don't know. I don't think so.
That's the decision that has to be made by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's now in charge of the football side of things at Manchester United and his football board. So that will happen in the summer, one way or another, with 12 months to go on Ten Hag's contract. Now, what about some other rumours that are doing the rounds right now? Talk to me about this Neymar story that seems to have developed over the past couple of days. And that, look, we know that Lionel Messi's not superhuman. He's a superhuman footballer, but his body's like everybody else's. There's going to come a time where it's just like, nah, I'm done. I'm done. So are we getting to a stage in Major League Soccer where replacing Messi is very, very difficult, if not impossible, but you can get someone, a superstar like Neymar, to come in? And that might start a trend of, okay, it's going to be superstar. It's going to be like the Galacticos of Real Madrid, but at Inter Miami, and it's going to be one after the other. Tell me what you've heard.
Well, he was obviously part of the Formula One coverage this past weekend, and our own friends at ESPN Argentina talked to Neymar Jr., who has a contract with Al Hilal until the end of 24-25 season. He obviously got injured in October, another serious injury that will stop him from playing with the Brazilian national team in Copa America. And he was asked, about, his future and, if he sees himself playing in Brazil. And Neymar said, honestly, not really. I don't know if I see it. He gave a little bit of a dubious answer, but he said, I would like to play in MLS, and I like that idea. And then the conversation of him maybe rejoining, Messi and Suarez and Inter Miami. He says, if Messi's happy, I'm happy. Everybody loves Messi. Everybody that's played with him talks like this. And Neymar is no different. He kind of wants to join. So I think he was acting as his own PR person, and kind of selling himself to MLS, saying, hey, listen, once the contract with Al Hilal is over and I'm fit again and everything ready, take me in. I mean, nobody is going to create the energy, the impact, the mania that Lionel Andrés Messi did last summer when he initially arrived to Inter Miami. It's not going to happen. Now, Neymar Jr. is obviously a huge name, and it will be amazing. And obviously, Apple TV and Adidas would love that kind of MLS season pass seller once again to bring the Brazilian in, but it wouldn't be the same. Now, who could he play? I would like to see him in another club. Orlando City has a lot of Brazilian interest. Obviously, they started with Kaká. It would be very cool to see him in MLS, but I mean, it's a few years from now. He was just trying to sell himself in Formula One, MD. We'll have to see what happens.
And just for the casual viewer of Major League Soccer that tunes in now and again, it's not all about Inter Miami. Yes, Messi's there right now, but as far as the league is concerned, this could be something that happens to another club. I think that's a good point you make about Orlando City, because if it's just going to be the case that the next superstar rolls into town and goes to Inter Miami, if I'm Charlotte, if I'm Atlanta, if I'm clubs nearby, I'm saying, hold on a minute here, Orlando City, what's going on? So how would it be decided as to who would get the superstar if that's the route that they wanted to go down?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I only mentioned Orlando City partly because of the Kaká introduction, but they have a really big Brazilian-American community, so it's like an obvious one to do. But the point that I want to echo is what you said at the beginning. People need to understand that Major League Soccer, yes, Messi, clearly a massive name, and he's created so much energy. But if you watch the opening game with Charlotte FC, managed now by our former Villa manager, Dean Smith, that's a packed 40,000 stadium going nuts. You go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta United, you're talking about 60,000 to 70,000. LAFC, this is a country that's just so hungry for the game. When you add a superstar, it just adds more fuel to the fire. It doesn't need the superstar. It's not like the Saudi Pro League. There's already a culture of soccer in this country. Now, clearly, MLS is not perfect, and there are many things that people want to see better or not, but this is a hungry, growing league with multiple markets. Messi just added up just a gallon of gasoline to the already growing fire. Neymar coming to it will be as well. It'll be amazing to see what it'll, but Neymar wants some. So I was just thinking Orlando, Inter Miami. I think he wants that kind of vibe. Like, that's what I'm feeling. I don't see him anytime being at Sporting Kansas City. Sorry, guys.
I'm just thinking at Hearts in Scotland. I mean, we can provide
That would be
Portobello
incredible.
Beach, sunshine, not so much. Yeah, I don't know if he'd get a game right now, to be honest. He's not getting a game ahead of Lawrence Shankland. A couple more names before we wrap this up. Interesting about Rafael Leao. Talk about him and Milan perhaps staying put, but Newcastle have been linked with him as well. Maybe it's a surprise to some that Newcastle, with all the money that's now available to them, haven't gone out and done what Chelsea have done and splashed the cash, but they've been smart. And Eddie Howe said, look, hey, I'll get who I want, when I want, if I decide that it's a case of we need them. So Rafael Leao, would he swap Milan, one of the fashion capitals of the world, for the Premier League and Newcastle? Would that be a step up for him?
Well, maybe at some point he'd like to go to the Premier League. He's still young, right? 24 years old, I believe, and he's a ridiculous talent, Rafael Leao. But I don't want to put any disrespect to Serie A or AC Milan. And he actually has come out and said, listen, like, AC Milan have done a lot for me. I have a 4-year contract here. Whether he honors that and stays 4 years, that's to be questioned. But for right now, I don't really see him leaving AC Milan. Newcastle, like you said, are being smart because they spent a lot the previous summer, and regardless of who owns them, the directorship wants to follow the profit and sustainability rules. So, that's an important part, that they're not doing what Chelsea's strategy was the past 3 windows as well. So, but I do hope, selfishly, to see Rafa Leao in the Premier League. It would be fantastic. PSG are a very interested club in Rafa Leao, specifically when Kylian Mbappé leaves for Real Madrid. They do see him as a piece that could fit in that lineup. Will it happen? I'm not so sure. I personally don't see Rafa Leao leaving AC Milan unless it's for a ridiculous amount of money, which I'm sure they would have to look at.
Okay, you mentioned Chelsea, and we're going to end with a seamless transition to Chelsea's both recruitment and their staff, because Conor Gallagher next season will enter the final year of his deal. Now, will he get to enter next season and have the final year of his deal at Chelsea, or will they look to sell him in the summer? Some of the praise that's come for him from Pochettino and others at the football club. Does it make sense for Chelsea to get a deal sorted rather than probably spend twice as much on getting a replacement if they do allow him to go? Or is this all financial fair play related? What do you reckon about Conor Gallagher's future at Chelsea?
It's interesting because when Mauricio Pochettino was asked about it, he said, my job is to be the manager. I have no say in the matter, which is interesting because he was reminded that at Manchester City, you have Erik, the director of football, that basically tries to find players that match Pep Guardiola's system and chemistry. Arsenal also have it under Edu as well. And even the likes of Liverpool as well have a clear plan on who could fit the manager's strategy, the manager's philosophy. Chelsea don't do that. I mean, they don't really add that much of an input with Mauricio Pochettino. Mauricio Pochettino may say what he wants or whatever, but he has no say in the matter. So when he was asked about Conor Gallagher, he was like, I want him to stay. I hope he can stay, but it's not my place to see. So it's in the air to see what the future of Conor Gallagher will be, entering the last year of his contract. I would imagine that they're going to be willing to let him go in exchange for a flashier name. That's the only thing that I'm thinking of. But Conor Gallagher is a fine footballer who would be able to help many, many teams in the Premier League.
Indeed, you will notice that during the last half hour, when Luis, Miguel, and myself have been chatting, there is this mistakes graphic that has appeared. So you've got a choice of 3. Is it 1, my inability to say unanimity? Is it 2, Chelsea's recruitment of late? Or is it 3, Ruben Diaz featuring twice in this team. He doesn't now. See, they fixed the graphic. There's no way that Rob Moore, our producer, could have allowed this to go without fixing it. So that, if you were with us right at the start, you'll know what we're talking about. We were asked to put together a combined 11, and you went so defensive. You had Ruben Dias in there twice, but you're not allowed that.
I took the bullet for Rob Moore, who apologized to us, and that's why he has it. But
everyone makes mistakes. As long as you fix it, I've got no issue with that whatsoever.
Everyone makes some mistakes, but I said a 3-4-3 formation. That wasn't it, was it?
You're a rascal. You know what? Let's just say farewell.
I love you, Rob Moore.
And a reminder, quiet please. Zip. Friday's ESPN FC Live, we will hear from Jurgen Klopp. We will hear from Pep Guardiola ahead of the big game this weekend. Liverpool against Manchester City. Plenty more as well. There's La Liga, there's Bundesliga, there's other Premier League games. 3 times a week, ESPN FC Live. I'll go back to my Connecticut base. Luis Miguel can go back to his beachfront villa on vacation. We'll do all this again in 48. Stop it. You are a menace. Bye for now, everyone. See you soon.